Hey, it's Matt Linklater here, and thanks for joining me. And yeah, everything is about how do you dominate the day. And so, in my own life, I'm always looking for those small increments that can give you huge results. So those small changes, those small hinges that swing big doors in your life that can give you the huge results, whether that be in health, relationships, mindset, business, marketing, sales. I'm always looking for that. And so thought I'd share with you a couple ideas that I came across this past week. So really what this boils down to is there's 4 things that I want you to think about while you're watching this video. Is the 4 ways that you can grow your business. And really there are only 4 ways to grow your business. Is number 1, you can charge more. And I really encourage you to think about your price and say, how do I demonstrate and provide more value so maybe I can actually raise my prices? Because if you can raise your prices, obviously you're going to grow your business for the same amount of work that you've been doing. The second thing that you need to do is you have to think about how do you cold prospect. See, cold prospecting is something you need to do in your business. The third thing is, how do I sell larger cases? How do I make each one of my sales a little bit bigger? And then the last thing is, ultimately, is how do I go back to those repeat customers and get them to buy more and repeat business with me? So just the other day, I had a guy calling me. He was selling benefits to business owners out there. And one of the things he said is, hey, Matt, how do you think I can go out there and do a joint venture with CPA offices? And he said, hey, is this a good strategy? First off, it was a great strategy, and I really encouraged him to do it. But it was part of that cold prospecting strategy. And so although a great strategy, sometimes cold prospecting is a little bit harder than some of the other strategies. So the idea is this, is one of the questions that I asked him that I uncovered is that he has over 250 clients. So there's over 250 business owners that he has consulted with on employee benefits. So when you look at those 250 clients, is he should think is, how can I go back and market to those folks? And then maybe how do I go and sell them something else? How do I cross-sell them? And go out there, and that would probably be a better use of his time than possibly cold prospecting. Now, I'm not saying not to do both, but I'm saying where's your time best spent? I was thinking about a lady a few years ago, has a great business. Her average ticket coming in is $3,000, so a great business. And she has sold something like 20,000 people or something like that over the last 10, 15 years. And so the best thing that to raise money for them is to go back is how do you go and cross-sell your current clients? And they do a great job of going and cross-selling their current clients and upselling their current clients. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can think about this. I had a guy, a mutual fund company that I was consulting with. And one of the things that he said was, I have this huge client. They financial advisor. They have $20 million with our firm, but that money's going out the door. How do I get that money to stay? Meaning the financial advisor has been taking that money and placing it with another company. How do I get that money to stay in? And really that ultimately boils down to the same things we're talking about is how do you cross-sell your current clients? And so really I just want to share with you a few ideas on how do you look at your current client base and how do you grow it and how do you grow what you're getting from your current clients. And so really just the school of thought is always thinking there's 4 ways to grow my business. There's 1, raise my prices. Is there a way that I could demonstrate value to charge a premium for what I have? How do you become the Louis Vuitton in the marketplace? And the way you become the Louis Vuitton in the marketplace or the whatever your high-end brand is in the marketplace is you have to create a ton of value. I think about a person that we hired and they were charging a nice sum of money. And the one thing was, though, the back end didn't feel like Louis Vuitton. The back end didn't feel like a Lamborghini. Now, the service was great, the results were great, but the feel wasn't the feel of that high-end service. So if you want to charge a higher price, you got to say is how do I get the look and feel of a high-end service? And a couple things that I would recommend there is number 1 is you have to have awesome communication. In a lot of service businesses out there, they don't communicate effectively or don't communicate in the right manner. And what I mean by that is one of the biggest things you can do to communicate more effectively in your business is have the sundown rule. And the sundown rule is basically that everybody gets a return call, a return email by the end of sundown, by the end of the day. That's just a Sam Walton strategy. So, how do you start providing that Cadillac and that Lamborghini service? And it's really about automating some things and making that look and feel look high end. How do you demonstrate that high end value? And that's ultimately what we try to do with our family office services, is demonstrate just such a high value to folks. And we keep doing that by increased communication, by making sure that we're always over communicating, by making sure we're always setting that next expectation, setting that next meeting, setting that next value demonstration for them, and trying to keep that communication ultimately really tight. We communicate in a lot of different ways through offline paper newsletters, through videos and things like that. But it's really to demonstrate that huge value and ultimately that huge follow-up. So that's some of the big things I think in demonstrating value. It's look, feel, automation, and having a great follow-up and that personal touch. You should go out there and cold prospect. I think that's very important. A little bit beyond the scope of what I want to talk about in this video. I really want to talk about how do you sell larger deals, and then how do you cross-sell and upsell. But when you go out there and you're cold calling, I think you need to have a cold funnel type lead source. So for instance, we do a lot of things on LinkedIn. We do a lot of things on Facebook. We do a lot of things in cold calling. We have some email lists. And so we do a lot of things to cold generate some leads. And I really encourage you to do that. Some things we know is we got to spend a little more time. They take to cultivate them. We have to take a little bit longer closing cycle, if you will, than a referral or a cross-sell or an upsell. But definitely you should go out there and cold prospect and have a strategy for that cold prospecting. But remember this, trust is built in drops but lost in buckets. And really when you think about whatever you're selling, it's you got to think about the level of trust you need to build with somebody before that you can close them or before they're ready to buy. So just think about what is that level of trust and how do you earn that trust in drops when you are cold prospecting. Now the other two is how do you look at your current clients and how do you sell just a larger, maybe you're a consultant, so how do you make that a bigger client? Maybe you're in finances. How do you just sell larger cases, larger strategies? We work with property and casualty agents, and it's just how do you get a bigger piece of the pie? And then lastly is how do you cross-sell and upsell your clients? And so let me take you through a couple ideas on how to get to exactly what I'm talking about. So when you think about your business, what is your core service? So write down and say, here's my core service, all right? And as you look at your core service, you have to look at and say, okay, what are other services or what are other products that complement this, that would make my client, that would solve a better problem at my client and create more value? So, just think about it in the middle. So one thing, I've been in financial services for the last 20 years, and a lot of what we do are assets under management. We do some life insurance. And when I thought about that, that was kind of the core. But as I started drawing out, what are other services that we could offer to help build that trust and help that client? And so ultimately what we started looking at, we look at tax and accounting and budgeting for business owners. We find business owners just are usually their books and their profit and loss are in disarray. They don't know where they are on a weekly and monthly basis and a quarterly basis. So we said, okay, how do we put tax and accounting so we could solve that problem for business owners? So we put that as a service. Now we already did some insurance, and so we put that as a service. So we do a cost analysis on insurance, Key Man. We do buy-sell agreements. People have 1035 insurance over to us because we do a better cost analysis. So we get them better benefits for least amount of money or the same amount of money. We look at assets under management. One of the big things is, we had somebody who's paying 2.5 over at Fidelity. We can get that fee down to just about 1. And so, yeah, that's a huge fee reduction. But it's also a huge adding immensely to their rates of return for their retirement. So there's a lot of different things. We do some business consulting. We have 11-point strategy, how we can help you build out your business consulting and business funnel. And so ultimately what we did then is said, okay, well, our core service used to be insurance and assets under management, but what we said is, okay, how do we take all these and put them all together? And so really we came up with our family office structure, and so here's our family office, and really our family office is to manage all the affairs of the business owners in America. Instead of having fragmented where you have your financial guy over here, your insurance guy or lady over here, your tax people over here, we put it all in, so now we can manage that book, that accounting, that we can manage their finances in real time. And so really we led with our core offer is our family office, and then branched off with these other offers such as tax and consulting, financial advising, insurance, business consulting, profit consulting. And so now we put all these on the outside, and now we have many different ways to go into our clients. And so go back to the gentleman who was utilizing benefits for his clients. Now you go to those 250 business owners, he could use very similar model to us and go in there and kind of put in all these different avenues and marketing strategies. So you always got to think about, okay, if I'm gonna cross-sell somebody, what else could I put in there that would provide a tremendous amount of value to them? And then also, if I just want to, gain a larger client, how do I do that? And for us, by going to that family office type strategy, our client has different levels of income and fees that we can generate for them. Which boils down to the other thing is this, is when you look at your levels of service and you reverse engineer the numbers that you have in your business, it's just like if you have, I want to use this very simply, let's say you have $1 million business and you have 100 clients. Just keep it really simple. Of that 100 clients, 4%, so just 4, will generate $640,000 couldn't generate $640,000 of revenue for you. And so when you look at that 4 going in there, that means roughly $260,000 is the average for each one of those top 4 clients. So what do you offer that could be $260,000 to each one of those clients? And then as you kind of go down from there, your services will slowly render down. In us, we have huge clients that could generate 250,000. Then it boils down to 150, then 55,000, then even 10,000, then 5,000. And this is something called power numbers. Is you have to figure out how do you layer the different strategies upon themselves to earn more from each one of your clients and customers. So ultimately, when you boil everything down, the best thing you can do is say, here are my clients, here's my offering. What are other offerings that I can put in place? And then how do you deliver them to your clients? And so number one is content marketing. Is you have to educate your client about what you do. It's not just about calling and saying, hey, this is what I do. It's how do you educate them? We are putting together a new funnel to get on podcasts and things like that out there. And the one thing I said is, well, I can cold call these people. That's not a problem. But I would like to demonstrate value first. So we would like to put a 2-3 piece, direct mail piece in. We'd like to do an email sequence. And then as they kind of get through a couple of these, then we'll call them, because then we've demonstrated some value. They see what we have, and then we can kind of give them our pitch. So one is content marketing and education marketing. How do you get that out there to educate your clients, one about your core offering, but about all these other types of offerings out there. So when you come up with your other offerings, is start offering and start thinking about how do I get this out there through content marketing and some different ideas. And then the other thing is start thinking about what are those layers of income and revenue you could generate from clients. So if you look and say, okay, down here's our baseline, this probably will cost about X. Up here, if they buy and become on a client as this, it'll be Y. If we could do this, it's Z. And so just kind of keep going up that ladder. It's called power numbers. And by thinking that way in my business, it has allowed me to stack these different levels on and not just sell like a property casualty agent out there where they're earning $300 a household. They really got to think about, how do I earn $3,000 or $30,000 or $300,000 per client? And so really just starting to think about this. And really it's about, one, what's your core offering? How do I layer other offerings on top of it? What's my core presentation, and how do I layer other offerings on top of it? So each one of your offerings then needs this type of presentation. One, you need to profile your client. You need to discover the need. So you need to have a presentation that discovers the need and profiles your client. The second thing is you need to demonstrate value. So how do you demonstrate that value? And then lastly, how do you close the client? So you need those three, and then the fourth meeting is a trust meeting. And really it's not a meeting, but you have to think about is, how do I build trust along the way through these strategies? And so ultimately, when you boil it down, core offering, what are my other offerings? How should I stack? How can I package these at different levels for clients? And then the third thing is, how do I demonstrate this value to clients? And it's all about trust is won in drops and earned in drops. And so profiling, uncovering the need, value proposition, and closing the client. So each one of your products around your core offering, or each one of your different funnels, should have that type of meeting sequence. So just kind of think about your business, your clients. How do you demonstrate more value? How do you add more value to your clients? And then how do you essentially go back to people where you have a ton of trust built, provide another solution to one of their problems, and so you could grow your business. And so at the end of the day, there's only 4 ways to think about growing your business. Is, do I charge more? Do I cold prospect? Do I, how do I generate more from each client? And then from my main presentation, if you will, how do I package things a little bit bigger? And then the last thing is, ultimately then, is how do I cross-sell and upsell my clients? And the way to do that is start with your core offering, think about the different levels that you could bring your client in at, and then think about how do you present that to your clients. And so go out there, dominate the day, come up with different strategies just to tweak your business a little bit, demonstrate more value to clients, add more value to clients, help them become educated about what you do through content and through content marketing, and go out there and dominate the day and crush it. I wish you a ton of success in your business.
I wanna get ready.